Look at this harmless-looking red berry. If you eat it today, you die in minutes. But here's the strange part. How do you know that? You didn't test it yourself and you didn't read it in a textbook. Someone else had to find out the hard way. Imagine being the very first human to look at that berry. Our bald stickman friend wearing his simple beige tunic is starving. He sees the bright red fruit dangling from a bush. He has no Google, no labels, and no manual for survival. He takes a bite, collapses, and never wakes up. This is the story of how our ancestors survived a world where everything was a game of Russian roulette. Most people never think about this, but for 99% of human history, grocery stores didn't exist. Our stickman wakes up on the cold ground, tightening his brown rope belt. His stomach is growling loudly, echoing through the empty forest. In the ancient world, hunger wasn't an inconvenience, it was a death sentence. Every single day was a frantic, desperate search for calories, but nature hid a dark secret beneath its beautiful green canopy. Plants don't want to be eaten. Because they can't run away, they fought back with chemistry. They developed invisible, deadly toxins to protect themselves. Mushrooms grew hidden poisons, roots packed lethal acids, and frogs coated their skin in nerve agents. Our stickman stands before a massive wall of green foliage, looking completely overwhelmed. To him, a deadly leaf looked exactly like a life-saving salad. One wrong choice, and his entire family line ends right there. So how did we get from that terrifying guessing game to the safety of the modern world? It wasn't just luck. It was a brilliant, dangerous system, a system written entirely in trial, error, and human blood. Before science labs existed, early humans had to become the ultimate detectives. They used clues hidden in plain sight to navigate the minefield of nature, and their very first teachers weren't even human. Here is what nobody tells you about the birth of medicine and survival. Our stickman sits quietly hiding behind a large rock, his bare feet tucked in. He's intensely watching a wild deer grazing in a sunny meadow. The deer sniffs a patch of yellow flowers, turns its nose up, and walks away. Then the deer walks over to a different bush and happily munches on the green leaves. Our stickman points at the bush and nods his head, taking mental notes. This was rule number 1: watch the locals. Animals had millions of years of evolution telling them what was safe. If the birds, monkeys, and bears avoided a specific berry, humans avoided it too. But that wasn't the only problem. Then something unexpected happened that shattered this rule completely. Our stickman watches a bird happily eating a tiny dark seed. He smiles, thinking he has found a jackpot. He picks a handful of the same seeds and swallows them down. Instantly, his eyes go wide and he clutches his throat in agony. Here's the strange part. What is safe for an animal can be lethal for a human. Birds can digest toxic berries because their digestive systems are completely different from ours. Mice can eat deadly nightshade mushrooms without skipping a beat. Copying animals blindly was a shortcut straight to the grave. Our stickman recovers, sweating and shaking, realizing he needs a better plan. He couldn't just rely on animals, he had to use his own senses. Humans evolved specific warning systems built directly into our faces. He picks up a mysterious leaf and brings it slowly to his nose. He takes a deep sniff and instantly recoils, wrinkling his face in disgust. Strong, pungent chemical smells were nature's way of shouting, "Stay away!" Next came the ultimate frontline defense, the human tongue. Our stickman gently touches a tiny piece of a new root to the tip of his tongue. It tastes incredibly bitter, burning his tongue like fire. He immediately spits it out violently, wiping his mouth with his tunic sleeve. Most toxins in nature are highly alkaline, which tastes intensely bitter to us. We didn't learn to hate bitter flavors, we evolved to hate them to stay alive. Think about a toddler spitting out broccoli today. That's an ancient survival instinct at work. But even the tongue wasn't a perfect shield against everything. Some poisons are incredibly sneaky. They taste sweet, delicious, and completely harmless at first. Our stickman looks at a beautiful white mushroom growing near a tree root. It smells earthy and fresh, with no warning signs at all. He takes a tiny bite, and it tastes wonderfully mild. He smiles, thinking he has found a wonderful feast for his tribe. But hours later, the poison begins its silent attack from within. This is the part that changes everything, raising the stakes to life and death. The white mushroom was the death cap, which destroys the liver over several days. Our stickman lies in his cave, clutching his stomach as fever takes over. He realizes that testing food requires a strict, careful process, not just a quick taste. Over thousands of years, tribes developed the world's first universal edibility test. It was a slow, agonizingly methodical ritual passed down through whispers. First, our stickman breaks a plant apart and rubs the sap onto his bare arm. He waits for a full hour, watching to see if his skin breaks out in red bumps. If his skin stays clear, he moves to the next incredibly cautious step. He boils the plant, then presses a small piece against his outer lips. He waits again, checking for any burning, tingling, or numbing sensations. If nothing happens, he finally puts a tiny piece into his mouth and chews for 15 minutes. But here is the catch. He does not swallow it. He spits it out. He waits several hours to see if his stomach reacts to the juices. Finally, if he passes all those tests, he swallows one single tiny bite. He sits perfectly still all night, waiting to see if he survives until morning. Imagine doing this for every single thing you ate, every single day. One mistake by one person could wipe out an entire family group. But that wasn't the only problem they faced in the wilderness. Sometimes the poison didn't come from the food itself. It came from how the food changed over time. Our stickman looks at a pile of fresh meat he hunted the day before. It looks fine, but invisible bacteria are already multiplying rapidly on it. He eats a piece and becomes violently ill from botulism. Humans had to learn the invisible line between fresh food and toxic decay. They realized that fire wasn't just for warmth, it was a magical purifier. Our stickman roasts a piece of meat over a bright, crackling campfire. The heat destroys the toxins and kills the deadly microscopic hitchhikers. Cooking changed the entire game of human survival forever. But then humans stumbled upon an even more bizarre realization. Some plants were deadly when raw, but completely safe when cooked. Look at the cassava root, a major staple food for millions today. Raw cassava contains cyanide, a poison that stops your cells from using oxygen. Our stickman watches an ancient community working together around a large wooden bowl. They grate the cassava root, soak it in running water for days, and then boil it. This elaborate multi-step process completely removes the lethal cyanide poison. How many people died figuring out that exact recipe? Nobody expected this level of culinary chemistry from ancient humans. They didn't know what a molecule was, but they knew how to hack nature. And soon they stopped just running away from poison. They decided to weaponize it. Our stickman kneels next to a tiny, brightly colored tropical frog. He carefully scrapes his hunting arrow across the frog's wet, toxic back. Now his weapon carries the deadly power of the jungle itself. With one scratch from that arrow, a giant mammoth can be brought down in minutes. Humans turned their greatest threat into their greatest hunting advantage. They also realized that poison is often just a matter of dosage. A large amount of a plant could stop your heart completely, but a tiny microscopic drop could cure a terrible fever or stop pain. Our stickman gives a tiny drop of willow bark extract to a crying child. The child calms down as the pain fades away. That willow bark contained the active ingredient we use in aspirin today. The line between medicine and murder was incredibly thin, and managing that line required something truly unique to humans. It required memory, language, and culture. Most animals lose their learned knowledge when the individual dies, but humans discovered a way to download information into the next generation. Imagine this: a smoky cave at night, safe from the cold wind. An old, wise elder stickman sits by the fire, surrounded by wide-eyed children. He points to a drawing on the cave wall of a specific jagged leaf. He shakes his head vigorously and mimes coughing and collapsing to the ground. The children watch intently, absorbing the lesson deep into their minds. They learn to fear the plant without ever having to touch it themselves. This was the birth of the world's very first survival database. Every story told around that fire saved a future life. But as human populations grew, they faced a massive new challenge. Tribes began to migrate out of their familiar lands into completely unknown territories. Our stickman walks across a snowy mountain range into a brand new valley. Every single plant around him looks entirely different from the ones back home. His old database was suddenly completely useless. He was back at square one, standing in a brand new minefield. This is the part that changes everything you thought you knew about human history. When humans moved to new lands, they didn't just guess, and they didn't just use the Edibility Test. They relied on a secret psychological weapon built into our DNA. It's a behavioral phenomenon called food neophobia. Our stickman looks at a strange, glowing purple fruit hanging from a branch. He is incredibly hungry, but an overwhelming sense of anxiety keeps him back. His brain is screaming at him that anything unfamiliar is a deadly poison. Humans are naturally wired to be deeply terrified of new foods. But here's the big reveal that nobody expects. The real heroes of survival weren't the cautious people. They were the rebels, the rule breakers, the desperate ones. In every tribe, there was always someone willing to take the ultimate risk. Driven by extreme starvation or pure reckless curiosity, they ate the unknown. Our stickman takes a deep breath, steps forward, and eats the purple fruit. He doesn't die. He feels completely fine and energized. He runs back to his tribe, waving his arms in pure excitement. He has just expanded the human menu by one more item. Human progress didn't happen by playing it safe. It happened because brave individuals risked their lives on the fringes of knowledge. Every delicious food we enjoy today was once a terrifying question mark. Think about the first person who decided to open a spiky sea urchin and eat the inside, or the first person who boiled a slimy, toxic mushroom multiple times just to see if it became safe. We stand on a mountain of sacrifices made by nameless ancient explorers. They ate the poison so that we could inherit the earth. Our modern survival isn't built on biology, it's built on their courage. Now let's bring this back to your modern life. Today you walk into a supermarket completely free of fear. You pick up a shiny apple, a package of mushrooms, or a box of bright berries. You never worry for a second that they will stop your heart. That peace of mind is a luxury that took 200,000 years to build. Our stickman stands next to a modern supermarket cart, looking around in utter amazement. To him, this place looks like a magical, impossible paradise, a place where the deadly lottery of nature has finally been conquered. But the ancient instincts are still alive inside you right now. When you hesitate to try a strange, exotic dish, that's your inner stickman talking. He's whispering to you, trying to keep you safe from a danger that no longer exists. Next time you eat, take a moment to appreciate the incredible journey of your food. Remember the generations of detectives who figured it all out for us. If you love uncovering the fascinating hidden history of human behavior, join our tribe. Hit the subscribe button to make sure you never miss our next animation journey.